Our top focus this hour is going to be the upcoming Lok Sabha polls in India. The countdown to India's parliamentary polls has begun as the Election Commission of India will announce the schedule for the Lok Sabha elections at 5 p.m. IST. Once the poll dates are announced, the model code of conduct will come into effect. And this means everything starting from the political advertisements to campaigning and the general code of political parties and leaders would come under the scrutiny of the Election Commission. Now, the tenure of the current Lok Sabha ends on the 3rd of June this year. And to bring us more details on this news story, I am now joined in by our political editor, Mr. Kartikeya Sharma, who joins us live from New Delhi. Kartikeya, since there was a massive increase in voters during Lok Sabha polls in 2014, this year, of course, poses a mammoth task for the Indian government. What are the challenges that you see ahead?
See, the mammoth task is organizing the voters. You know, every 5 years you add 100 million to your voters list. So obviously the sort of preparation which is required, that is why the dance of democracy is so complex in India, because the places are so different, languages are different, places are far-flung, they are very difficult to reach. You will be holding elections at 6,000 meters, but you will also be holding elections in atolls of Lakshadweep. You will be holding elections in the desert of Rajasthan in Barmer, but you will also be sending ballot boxes to Chhattisgarh, where Maoist problems still prevail. So India that way is very diverse, and there are some parts which are very, very remote. But by saying this, I would say that this election is very unique. This election is very different from 2014, and I would say first time after 1996, this sort of an election is taking place in India, which is very, very different, and there is a resurgence of a different trend which was not there for past 15 to 20 years.
All right, resurgent of a different trend which was not there in the past 15 years. Interesting to note. But now that the dates will be announced today, Kartikeya, how many phases can we expect the elections to pan out, and which states are due for assembly polls?
I think 7 to 8 phases. That's minimum, because you know you have Northeast, Kashmir, Chhattisgarh. These are the areas where you require special time, special focus, intense deployment. I think minimum 7 to 8 phases takes place. But elections primarily are not organized as per the convenience of the political parties. Election is organized primarily in convenience of the movement of the paramilitary which organizes it. So the convenience of the movement of paramilitary will be seen. And once that is there, the election gets organized, Akansha.
All right, and what sort of other convenience are we looking at? Because, you know, as we spoke earlier also, including the opposition, a lot of people have been ranting about the delay in the announcement of the election dates. What has caused this delay?
I think it wasn't a delay. What happened was that people forget that the last Lok Sabha had to be constituted in May. This Lok Sabha can be constituted in June. So Election Commission has a lot of time. Yes, it has come close, but they have not squeezed the election schedule. It has shifted a bit because you have the time at the back end, and I think that time at the back end would be utilized. So there was fear that maybe the government of India perhaps wants to squeeze the election in a tight schedule so that the opposition parties will not get the chance. I don't think so. In fact, this is one election where regional parties have become very, very aggressive. It's like 1996. I would say that the bipolarity of Indian politics has broken down, which L.K. Advani has spoken when they lost elections in 2009. Right. There is no bipolarity. You actually have regional parties making a difference at national level, which was the case in 1990s and which was the case in 1980s, even when Congress was the hegemonic party. So that's the biggest difference today.
All right. Kartikeya, also, let's talk about Jammu and Kashmir. The valley has been extremely volatile of late. Can we expect the elections over there to take place simultaneously along with the Lok Sabha elections? Because let's not forget that the state has been under the governor's rule ever since the BJP-PDP rule broke down.
I think that can also be done. You know, elections can take place there, but you know, ultimately it depends on the ground situation in J&K. Other places the elections will take place on time. But I think it's easier for the government since the whole election process is taking place throughout the country. You can organize it, but it ultimately depends on how political parties are going to participate in it. PDP, Congress, NC have a responsibility there. I wouldn't say that they may or they may not, but they have a responsibility there to participate in the election so that at least a rhythm of election is not broken. You see, the criticism which India faces sometimes is that it's only an electoral democracy. Social economic democracy has not happened. Civic democracy is absent. So if the most sacred part which makes us very different from many South Asian experiments where countries tried various forms of democratic forms of governance like parliamentary, some went for the presidential. India has never been a country where democracy was suspended by armed forces.
Right.
The only time democracy was suspended was by an elected leader, Indira Gandhi.
Right, and talking of the upcoming elections, Karthikeya, let's also run our viewers through some interesting developments that have been taking place in Odisha, where the state party, the Biju Janata Dal, will become the first party in India to announce 33% reservation for women for parliamentary tickets. No party in India, regional or national, has gone forth with such a policy. Under this initiative, a minimum of 7 to 8 tickets are set to go to women. Now, the importance and significance of this development will be explained by our political editor, Karthikeya, who joins us live at the moment. Karthikeya, your take on this. This indeed is a significant development coming in during this election season.
You see, Odisha always had this history of anti-center positioning. Now, Naveen Patnaik is not in pink of his health. I'm not saying that he's unwell, but he's not in the pink of his health. There is an issue as to how and on what policies that the BJD will be contesting. BJD is a very popular party in Odisha, and BJD has ensured neither BJP nor Congress could prosper there. So it's the hegemonic party there. And he has carried forward the tradition of his father Biju Patnaik very well. And he was not a politician. He came back from abroad, reluctant politician, a man who couldn't speak Odia properly. But then the way he ran the state, there was significant contribution he did in terms of welfare schemes, in terms of public distribution. And now with this, because assembly elections are coterminous with Lok Sabha election, this is something which can also turn the tide. I'm not saying that the BJD is anyway losing. BJP is in the position of advantage. The issue is, will they win the election or will they sweep the election?
All right, that's a very valid point. You know, will they win or will they sweep the election? Now, also, Karthikeya, do guide us through the new rules that have been included in by the Election Commission in the poll affidavit when it comes to candidates and their property holdings, or more of the new rules that you were referring to earlier.
I think one of the basic thing is that the details of property and the income accrued will have to be certified in front of the election commissioner. Earlier the rule was that you certify your assets. Now the income from the asset is also the part. But I think the most important issue here is that the VVPAT with EVMs, that has happened. But you know, both the political parties have not they have not taken out their manifesto. So now the manifestos will come out. What are the policies? Congress has not stated its economic policy. BJP has already launched its campaign on the issue of nationalism. So a lot of things are undefined now. I would say the election will start to open up from tomorrow itself.
All right, that's an interesting statement to make, that the election might just start to open out tomorrow. Thank you so much, Karthikeya, for bringing us all the latest on the upcoming Lok Sabha polls. Now, the Indian Election Commission has also issued an advisory to all political parties across the country, asking them to refrain using photographs of defence personnel in their election campaigns. In the advisory, the poll commission has said, and I quote, "The commission is of the view that photographs of chief of army staff or any other defence personnel and photographs of functions of defence forces should not be associated with or used in any manner or in advertisement, propaganda, campaigning or in any other manner in connection with elections by political parties and candidates." The 2013 advisory was sent after the Defence Ministry complained that the photographs of defence personnel are being used by the political parties in advertisements as part of their agenda. The EC's advisory comes against the backdrop of a political hoarding using Indian Air Force Wing Commander Abhinandan Varthaman image alongside party leaders. Now, the Election Commission has also asked the political parties and leaders to exercise great caution while making references to the armed forces during their political campaign. So it's important to talk about the latest developments that have been taking place in the state of Odisha, as the Odisha party from the Biju Janata Dal has announced a 33% quota for women in allocation of Lok Sabha seats. The BJD will become the first party in India to go forth with a 33% reservation for women for parliamentary tickets. And no party in India, regional or national, has gone forth with such a policy. And to bring us more details, I am also joined in by Mr. Naveen Chawla, former Chief of the Election Commission. He joins me on the phone line. Mr. Chawla, this is indeed a significant development as the BJD becomes the first party in India to go forth with 33% reservation for women for parliamentary tickets. And this is indeed the first time that a party is going ahead with the maximum reservation for women in parliamentary tickets.
Yes, this is. And it's not only significant, it's also very welcome. It's something that the Election Commission has been asking for and suggesting for many years. I would congratulate Mr. Naveen Patnaik, Chief Minister of Odisha, for taking this wonderful step, this very momentous step. And I hope that other political parties would follow.
Right, sir. This is indeed a momentous step. Now, coming to the elections, it's going to be a very unique election, sir. What are the challenges that you see ahead for the Indian government, considering there was an increase of 1 million voters in the last polls that took place in 2014? We are expecting a mammoth increase this year as well. So what are the challenges that you see lying ahead?
The challenges are not for the government. The challenges are for the Election Commission.
Right.
And yes, in 2009, when I conducted the election, there were 714 million registered voters. In 2014, there were 816 million registered voters. And I think this time there might be well close to 850.
850, all right.
Close to that. I don't have the exact figures. But you know, as you know, this is more than the entire population of Europe and Russia put together, North and South America put together. So it's a staggering figure. And to think that with 850 or maybe even 900 million voters, the Election Commission is able to do an impeccable election in record time.
Right. So how significant do you think and how crucial will be conducting elections in Jammu and Kashmir, since we all know that the valley has been extremely volatile of late and it's already been under the governor's rule ever since the BJP-PDP alliance ended last year?
Well, I can't foretell that. I can only tell you that when I did the 2008 assembly election in the state of J&K, which was, free, fair, transparent, and widely acknowledged to be so. And then the general election that followed a few months later in May of 2009, the Election Commission rose up to the challenge, as the Election Commission also rises up to the challenge in other states which are also difficult for other reasons. For example, there are states where there is Naxalism. There are states of the Northeast where distance and geography pose great problems. And the Election Commission has always risen up to the challenge. I'm sure they will this time.
Right. So also there's been a lot of talk about how the announcement is finally taking place in the second week of March, whereas in the previous polls it's taken place in the first week of March. Would you call this a delay? And if this has been a delay, why so?
Well, let's wait for the press conference this evening. And I'm sure that the reasons for that will manifest themselves. I know that I had announced on the 2nd of March in my time, and in 2014 it was announced on the 5th of March, which is 5 days later. And there is a cushion because the new government is only to be sworn in by the 3rd of June.
Right.
And the Election Commission always keeps a cushion. So it depends on many factors. I'm sure that they'll all be explained this evening. So let's wait for the announcement by the Election Commission.
All right, sir, my last question to you is, do enlighten us about the new rules that have been introduced by the Election Commission in the poll affidavits, especially with regards to properties that are now being held by candidates abroad?
Well, I think that the Election Commission has moved towards greater and greater transparency, particularly in respect of those self-sworn affidavits by all candidates, which includes an affidavit regarding their wealth, combined with the wealth of their spouses. and family members. So I think we are moving towards greater transparency as far as these declarations on wealth are concerned.